I'm going to create two objects now. Let's create object. This one is going to be enemy 1 underscore 1. I'm going to set the sprite. I'm going to OK that for now, and then create another object. This one is going to be called system. It's not going to have any sprite. I'm going to use this to set up the code for a number of elements in the game, one of them being the spawner. Another one will be later on. I will create a sort of damage system for the player object and a high score system. So this is just kind of a housekeeping thing really, just so I don't make loads of objects, and I just keep all the sort of like the things that affect elements in the game are all going to be kept in one location, so I know where to go to edit that and to tweak things. I'm going to create an alarm event. Right click, add event, alarm. There's 11 alarms you can have here, but you can actually sort of program your own alarms. So alarm 0. And you can think of this as an alarm clock. So you set the amount of steps, game frames, and when it reaches that, it goes off and an action will happen. So the action when it goes off will be this bit of code here, and it's going to be my spawner code. So let's do a hint spawn spawn enemy 1. And what I'm going to do with this is create a variable that's going to be randomized and create 3 instances of the enemy at once to create an attack formation. Because I want to generate a random number, the first thing I'm going to put in is randomize. This doesn't have any arguments, it's just open brackets, close brackets. And what this does is any sort of random number functions that I use will be different every time I load the game. If I don't put this in, the random numbers will be the same every time I load the game. So this makes it like true randomness. So I'm going to type in var, and this is the function that creates the variable. And a variable is something that basically stores a numerical value or a character string or whatever you want it to do. So I need to give this variable a name. What I want to do is create a random number that's going to be where the enemy spawns on the y-axis, so the vertical axis. So I'm going to call it y underscore spawn. Okay, let's close that off. So I've given the variable its name. Now I need to set that variable. So y underscore spawn equals, now I'm going to use this random number generator, random range. So it has 2 arguments, the minimum and the maximum. So the minimum on the y-axis once spawn is 32 pixels from the top and 448 at the bottom. So when the alarm goes off, it will create the variable y-spawn and it will set that variable a random number between 32 and 448. So now I need to create the instance of these enemy objects. So instance create. So on the x-axis I want it to start off the screen. So I'm just going to give it the value of 1040 pixels so that it won't appear on the screen, it'll start off screen. Then I'm going to assign that variable I've created, so y spawn on the y-axis, and then the enemy object. So let's run through this again. So I've created a variable called y spawn, that's going to have a random number, say 52. Then it'll create the instance of the enemy at 1040, and then that variable. I want to create 3 enemies in a triangular sort of flight formation. So I'm going to duplicate this 3 times, and then I'm going to offset the spawn point. So I'm going to set 1 to 64 pixels behind. Do the same for this one. Okay, and then I'm going to add a value to the Y spawn. So the middle one will be 64 down, and then the other one will be 128. So all I've done is just added 64 pixels and then 128 pixels to the Y spawn point. So that should give me this kind of triangular formation. Next, I'm going to reset the alarm so it continuously creates these random waves of enemies. So I'm just going to put in a hint there, reset alarm. The alarm I want to reset is the alarm 0. So it's in these kind of square brackets. And to set it, I just put alarm 0 equals, I'm going to use a random range again because I want it to kind of reset the alarm randomly. Random underscore range. So between 90 frames and 120 frames. So the alarm will go off, it'll create 3 enemies, and then the alarm will reset and start again between 90 and 120 frames. That's okay, that. I need to initiate this alarm. I'm going to do that with a create event, so add event, create. Because if I don't do this, there's nothing to set the alarm to start with. So as soon as it loads up, I'm going to set the alarm to go off. So I'm going to create a bit of code, alarm, square brackets, 0. I'm just going to give it 1 second. So it'll set it 30 frames as soon as it loads up. Then it will go into that script and keep resetting itself. It's okay, that. I need to place the system in the room. So go to my level, go to the object, system. I'm just going to plonk it anywhere. It's not got a sprite, so it just comes up with this blue circle with a question mark in it. But that's in the room now, and it'll load with the room. I'm going to code some behavior now for the enemy object. So let's open that up. And I'm going to create a create event. So as soon as the spawner alarm goes off, and then the create event will kick in, and it will do what I'm going to code, which is going to be the movement. So put in hint, and it's just going to go across the screen horizontally. So hspeed function equals, and it's going from right to left, so it's a negative value, -10. I'm also going to set the animation speed as well to half, because it was running at 30 frames a second, it was a bit too fast. So I'm going to set it to image speed. So this is the variable for the animation rate, equals. Now it's set, 1 is the speed of the room. So if I want to play it half, I set it 0.5, so it'll play at 15 frames a second now. And okay. I also need to code a step event so that when it leaves the room, it destroys that instance. Otherwise, I'll just keep creating multiple enemies, and the same thing as I explained before, those will build up and up and up, and eventually slow down the game or crash it. So here's the code. If x is less than 0, so on the x-axis 0 is the far left of the screen. So once it goes less than 0 into a negative value, then the instance will be destroyed. So let's test that out. And here's our enemy attack formations.